you will be able to serve, first and foremost, those missionaries. As far as I'm concerned, that are the special forces of Christianity. The forefront part of the battle, hottest part of the battle, are our missionaries. And when you take a missions trip and you go and visit one of those missionaries, you are taking time out of your life, out of your schedule, putting everything here in the States on hold, and going and making that missionary, his family, his wife, their children, their ministry, what God's called them to do. You're making that a priority, and you are serving them. And don't underestimate how important that is. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Stacey Shiflett Podcast. And we are going to be talking about a subject that I absolutely love to talk about. In fact, I could take a 12-hour road trip and talk the whole time about the subject that we're going to talk about here right now. And that is the subject of taking a missions trip and the ministry of taking a missions trip. We'll get into that in just a moment. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all the great and kind emails and text messages that I've received over the last couple of weeks. You folks are so kind. I appreciate it. There are guys that drive and they listen to every podcast, and they're always so faithful to respond and give me feedback. That means a lot. I really do appreciate it. And if it's a blessing to you, I hope that you'll share it with your friends and share it with your church members. Those of you that listen and get a blessing out of it, I'm sure others may as well. This will be probably the last podcast I do for several weeks. I've got a crazy schedule coming up, and I'm just not going to be able to squeeze it in, I don't think. Next weekend, we'll be taking our married couples, up to Lancaster, Pennsylvania for our romantic escape. That's what we call it, romantic escape. Some churches call it a marriage retreat, but that sounds like you're backing up. So I try to avoid that word, marriage retreat, but we're looking forward to taking a good number. I think we got a record number signed up to go up to Amish country, and we always book a nice hotel, and it's just beautiful country up there. So I'll be up there next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with my wife and heading that ministry up. And then the following week, I will be in the country of Nicaragua. And maybe that's one of the reasons what prompted me to talk about this subject today. But the thought that's been on my heart, and I mentioned it before, but I really want to just drill down on this idea of the importance. I believe there is a biblical mandate, honestly, to take missions trips. I think about the Apostle Paul, literally traveled the known world 3 separate times in his lifetime. And this was with a group of helpers and workers going with him. This was not just him going around from place to place, but you think about the logistics, you think about the expense, you think about the amount of time and planning and effort that it took for the Apostle Paul 2,000 years ago to travel all over Asia Minor. And this was in a day where it took literally months to get to your destination, weeks at the least. You didn't just head out and get somewhere the next day or 2 days later. When you say we're going to this place, it would take weeks to get there, sometimes longer than that. And, they had to walk. They had to take ships. They had to ride donkeys or whatever horses, chariots, wagons, who knows? They didn't have mass transit. They didn't have buses. They didn't have airplanes and trains and automobiles. And do you realize that today in 2025, you can be just about any place on the planet in a day and a half? And I'm talking about that's a combination of flying and driving and trains and whatever other mode of transportation you want to pick. You can be just about anywhere in less than 2 days at the most. And, the thought that I want to drive home today in this podcast is The Bible's very clear that Jesus said in John chapter 4, verse number 35, say not ye there yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already unto harvest. Jesus was pretty clear about looking on the fields, lifting up your eyes and looking on the fields. And let me say this. I know that there are videos, missionaries have presentations. They come to our churches and we dim the lights. They throw their presentations up on the screens. And I'm always intrigued at the presentations, and my heart is always stirred. My heart is always moved. I cannot begin to tell you how much better it is when you see it in person. When you're standing in that city, standing in that country, you can smell the smells and you can feel the weather and you can hear the sounds and hear the people around you talking and just experience the whole essence of a mission field. To be sitting in a church service of people that were saved and have been baptized and are being discipled as a direct result of your mission dollars, it is life-changing. And I just want to take a few minutes today in this episode, and I want to challenge every pastor that listens to this podcast. Take a missions trip. Take a missions trip. Get a passport. Go down, get your picture made, get your passport, and pray over your list of missionaries and read the prayer letters and find out and ask God to help you discern which one of those missionaries could benefit the most from several days of your time and your ministry in their church and into their family and in their city, and take a missions trip. I can't believe how many pastors use the excuse, well, it's just too expensive. Let me tell you something. You can go just about anywhere in this world. I'm talking about fly and be there in a day and a half for $1,500. $2,000 at the most. You can go halfway around the world. You can go to India. You can go to South Africa for less than $2,000 in plane tickets. There are people that blow that kind of money at Disney World every year on vacation with their family. It's not as expensive as you think. And if you're going to Central America, South America, you'll be shocked at how cheap you can buy a ticket and be down there. I'm going to leave, not this Monday, but next Monday. I'm going to leave here in Baltimore. I'm going to leave the airport. Me and one of my deacons, Brother Byerly, we're going to fly out of here at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning, and I will be in Nicaragua by lunch. They're going to pick me up at the airport. We're going straight to the Bible College campus, and I'm going to start teaching and teach homiletics all the way till supper. And then we'll have supper, and then we'll have an evening service, and I'm going to teach homiletics all day, every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll be having leadership conferences in the evening and teaching a crash course, 30 hours of homiletics during the day. Get on a plane Saturday morning and be back home in time for church on Sunday. It's amazing. It's amazing how easy it is to take a missions trip these days. And the blessings, oh my goodness. I thought about the opportunities that I've had. And I maybe one of these days I'll do a podcast and I'll just tell stories about my missions trips. Of course, those of you that know me, you knew I grew up on the mission field back in the 80s, lived in the islands of Samoa, in American Samoa, on the island of Tutuila, in the village of Pongo Pongo, and lived there for a number of years and learned conversational Samoan. We learned to eat the Samoan food, cook Samoan dishes, learned to cook the umus, and learned to just adapt to life in the tropics, in a tropical rainforest. Then we lived in Hawaii for a number of years, did missionary work there in the 80s with my parents. I was a teenager at that time, and I was a much greater asset, I'm sure, helping my dad there with the piano playing and leading the singing and whatnot, soul winning and visitation, and just helping set the church up every week there in our house. But of course, then our family served in South Africa. But other than that, other than those times where I lived overseas, I'm talking about the trips that I've been blessed to take. And I've been to places like Brazil. You're talking about a beautiful country, amazing food, it's the most precious people, the kindest, most outgoing, hospitable people are the Brazilian people. and had the opportunity to go down there and spend about a week and a half, and visit several different missionaries and several different churches. And of course, I've been to Mexico twice to visit our missionaries there in Leon, Mexico. Brother Sam Estep and his family doing a phenomenal job down there. I actually went with him the first time when he took a survey trip, and we explored the city, went up on the mountain, looked out over the city, and we prayed, seeking God's direction for this move from Mexico City down to Leon. And I was just amazed at the need there. I'm talking just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, and very few Bible preaching churches in that area. Then I've been down to the Dominican Republic a number of times, taking several missions trips down there to visit our missionary that's been a member of our church here for 40 years plus. Brother Elaine and his wife are doing a great job. Been missionaries there in Haiti and the Dominican, started churches on both sides of that island there, Espanola. And he speaks Creole and French and Spanish and English. And I'm talking about just been down there for 30 years. And to be able to go and see that and meet those people and pass out tracts in those villages and those communities and preach in those different churches, what a blessing. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to go down to Aruba, the island there, right to the northern tip of Venezuela, right off of the coast there of South America, and do a missions trip for Brother Matt Shields and his family. And I remember him sitting in my dining room several years ago, and he said, I'm having the hardest time getting a pastor, American pastor, to come preach a missions conference for me. I said, you hadn't asked me. He said, will you come? I said, absolutely. And so I have just been amazed at the missionaries and the feedback that I've gotten from missionaries that say, I can't get anybody to come visit us. We can't get a pastor, any of our supporting churches, to come see us. And listen, there are pastors out there that are obsessed with missions trip, probably as much as I am, if not more, and believe in it and make sure they carve out time during their year, their calendar, and make it a vital part of their budget even to fund these trips. But I'm amazed at how many American pastors do not have a passport. They have never once entertained the thought of going to the mission field and with their own eyes see the need. And I'm telling you, it will change your life. It will change your church. It will change the way you look at missionaries that are on deputation. It'll change the way you pray for missionaries that are on furlough. And I've been amazed at pastors that say, I can't leave my church. I can't leave my church for 2 weeks. You can't leave your church for 2 weeks? What, you're afraid it's going to completely fall apart? And yet you got a missionary on a foreign field that has to leave his church every 4 years for a year? Think about that. Think about the things that we ask missionaries to do. And many times we're not even prepared to do a small percentage of that. But Aruba was a beautiful country. We went snorkeling during the mornings, did some deep sea fishing, and we canvassed some areas and was able to have a missions conference and preach every night. And we saw God do a tremendous, tremendous work there. And we saw their faith promise explode. And our hearts were stirred to see what that dear missionary and his family were doing there on the island of Aruba. And then I've got to go to Israel with Brother Sasser. Got to see Israel and what's going on there and meet some of the people he's been working with there. Got to go to the Philippines. Been to the Philippines twice. And man, you want to talk about a blessing to be able to go and preach. And those people are just hungry for the truth, hungry for the gospel. Some of the sweetest people you'll ever meet are the Filipino people. And the food's phenomenal. And depending on the time of year, it can be hot. But just an amazing mission field. And then I got to go to Mongolia. I mean, you read about Mongolia, you read about the history there, and you just can't imagine what it's like to be in the country of Mongolia and see those people and interact with them and talk to them and see the impact that Buddhist temples and the Buddhist monks and the Buddhist religion has had on those people, and to be able to see the tundra and the yaks and the horses and what God's doing in Mongolia. I got to go with Brother Keene, Dr. Charles Keene, and was a part of that opportunity to present the Bible, the New Testament, to them for the very first time in their language. And what a thrilling experience that was. I'll never forget it as long as I live. 2020 went to Myanmar, what used to be Burma. With the Myanmar, traveled some of the most remote villages. I mean, it's unbelievable how far back we went up in the mountains, and there's just not a lot of Americans, not a lot of white people go up in there, and to be able to preach and pass out literature and talk to people and them cook and bring you food that they cooked on over a fire in their corner of their house, and just the whole experience, it's life changing. And I just thinking about the time I went to Ghana. I was a missionary in South Africa and went to Ghana for 2 weeks. What an amazing trip that was. And I talk about this a lot. I really do. And I may talk about it too much, but I really want to challenge, if you're listening to this episode, I want you to ask yourself the question, why have I not already taken a missions trip? Your church supports missionaries. I'm amazed at how many pastors have missionaries that are out of their church and they've never been to their mission field. I talked to a missionary just the other day that was here at our missions conference, and his home church, his sending church, he's been a member of that church for 7 years. Pastor's never been to his mission field. That's shocking to me. That's unfathomable for me, to have a missionary that is out of your church serving on a foreign field for 7 years, and you never get on a plane and go over there and see what they're doing and minister to them in their field, in their church. It doesn't make sense to me. And I guess the thought that really drove this episode today, not to mention the fact I'm going to Nicaragua, and the missionary, Brother Daniel Burdine, he asked me earlier in the year, or last year, he said, would you come and teach in our Bible college? And I said, I'm teaching in mine. I'm teaching every Monday night and Tuesday night here in my Bible college. And that was my initial excuse was, I'm doing that already. And he said, well, I would just love it if you would come. And I could hear his heart, the plea and the cry for help. And I remember what that feels like, to be on a foreign field and you're trying to get somebody to come help you, and you keep getting blown off and you keep getting pushed aside. And I said, send me your schedule. Let me look at it. I said, I got a lot of meetings I'm preaching, and I got Bible college, and I'm committed to be here, but I'll see what I can do. And I said, what class were you kind of leaning for me to teach? And he said, I'd really like for you to teach the homiletics class. Well, I just taught that last year here at Sherwood Baptist College, and got some great resource material, not to mention a bunch of stuff that I got up on my own. And I thought, man, I'd love to teach that. And he sent me the calendar, and I looked and saw the dates in April, and I said, hang on just a second. And I looked at our college schedule, and lo and behold, it was the week of our spring break when we're not having any classes at all that week. And I said, well, this just must be of the Lord. And so while all of our Bible college students are going to be taking a break, I'm going to Nicaragua and teach an entire semester of homiletics in 1 week. And I can't wait. I'm excited about seeing the work down there and meeting those college students and meeting all those pastors that will be coming in for that crash course, that module, and be able to see our missionaries that we support up close and personal, and be able to be a part and invest in their ministry there, not just financially from afar, not just praying for them from here in the States, but actually go and put your fingerprints on the ministry and to see what God's doing. I can't wait to do it. And it fires me up. And every time I come back, it fires the church up, because I take a whole Sunday night and I show pictures and I just talk about what I did. And of course, our church here pays for my trip. They pay for my plane tickets. They pay for all of my expenses. We don't want to be a burden on that missionary, obviously, or that ministry there. And so the church here will absorb the cost of my airline tickets and whatnot. But as part of our budget, we've got that budgeted into our annual missions budget, is taking missions trips. And of course, later on in August, we'll be going out to Arizona and taking a missions trip out there. We're taking close to 40, if not a little over 40 folks from our church out to visit Brother Joel Haynes there in Arizona at the Navajo Nation. And they've got 9 churches that they've started all over the reservation. And our folks will go and spread out and go and visit every single one of those little settlements there on the reservation, pass out literature and witness, knock doors, and be a blessing and encouragement to that pastor and his family and eat with them and labor with them. And then we'll come back every night. All of us come back together there to Ganado Baptist Church, where Brother Mark Haynes has been for 20 plus years. And we will have a tremendous camp meeting services each and every night. I'm looking forward to preaching in that. And it's just awesome to go on a missions trip. And the reason why I believe it's important is because the Bible says, go ye therefore. It said go. It didn't say send. It said go. And sending is not the same as going. It don't matter how many missionaries you send. That does not replace you personally going. It will change your life. It will change your missions giving. You'll come back and completely reevaluate your priorities. I promise you. And you say, I don't have any more money to give. I'm giving as much as I can to Faith Promise Missions. Take a missions trip and find out how much money you got. Find out how much less you will spend eating out and blowing money on nonsense when you have a fresh and renewed vision and burden for world missions. Three reasons why you ought to take a missions trip. Number one, for what you will see. What you will see. The Bible's clear in Lamentations chapter 3, verse number 51. Mine eye affecteth my heart. Now that's in the Bible. You want God to touch your heart. You want God to move your heart. You want God to stir your heart. Go see it. Go see it. Because those presentations that they show in your church, that's just the tip of it. That's not even scratching the surface. That's a tip of the iceberg of what you will see when you're there. It's life-changing. I've never met a single person that took a missions trip and came back and said, well, that was a waste of time. I'll never do that again. That was the biggest waste of money. Never. Every person I've ever met that took a missions trip wanted to stay longer, and they want to go on another one as soon as they get back. It's the most awesome thing ever, especially if you understand the gospel and you understand and appreciate what Jesus did on the cross of Calvary. And if you understand that hell is forever and that people that don't hear the gospel go there and spend eternity, missions trips are amazing for what you will see. Jesus said, go lift up your eyes, look on the fields. He didn't say look at pictures of them. He said, go look at the fields. And I really want to challenge you to look at those fields. The Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 17 and verse number 16, while Paul waited for them at Athens, the Bible said his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Now here is a veteran missionary. Here's a veteran missionary that just for a few days in Corinth, when he saw the idolatry, he saw the false religion, he saw the hopelessness of those people, the Bible said his spirit was stirred within him. Pastors, encourage your people to take missions trips. Take missions trips with them. You say, I'm going to have a revival this year. I'm going to pray God to use this guest preacher preaching 3 or 4 or 5 nights to stir our church. I got one better than that. Take them on a missions trip. It'll change them. Guaranteed. I promise you. For what you will see. Number 2, take a missions trip for where you will sow. You will get to sow seed somewhere you never thought you would. And there is no feeling, there is no fulfillment like preaching the gospel to a group of people with the understanding that there is a good chance some of those people have never one time heard a clear presentation of the gospel. And for you to have the honor, for you to have the unbelievable, amazing privilege to introduce to them the person of the Lord Jesus Christ, the gospel, knowing that they maybe have never heard it. It's amazing. A lot of pastors here in the States just get discouraged and burn out. They soul win, pass out tracts, knock on doors, and you hear it all the time. Can't get anybody saved. Everybody's saved. Well, everybody's not saved overseas. I can promise you that. You get on a plane and you go to one of these countries, you'll be shocked at how many people are open and receptive to the gospel because they've never heard it. And you get to be the one to tell them. You get to be the one to sow the seed. You may or may not be able to reap the harvest while you're there. God may let you water seed that somebody else has sown. God may let you be a part of reaping that harvest, but to be able to go and sow. And the Bible says, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. And there's something that is emotionally stirring about a missions trip. And you will never, ever again look at missions the same way. Every time you get a prayer letter in the mail, it'll feel different in your hand, because you'll know what it's like to live there and to be there, and to wake up every morning with those people and in that city with those sounds and those smells and the spiritual oppression and the spiritual warfare that is raging in those places. It'll change you. It'll change you. Take a missions trip for what you will see. Number two, for where you will sow. And thirdly, take a missions trip for who you will serve. You will be able to serve, first and foremost, those missionaries. As far as I'm concerned, that are the special forces of Christianity. The forefront part of the battle, hottest part of the battle, are our missionaries. And when you take a missions trip and you go and visit one of those missionaries, you are taking time out of your life, out of your schedule, putting everything here in the States on hold, and going and making that missionary, his family, his wife, their children, their ministry, what God's called them to do. You're making that a priority, and you are serving them. And don't underestimate how important that is. One of the biggest things that our missionaries fight on the field is discouragement and loneliness. And yes, we got emails, we've got social media. Yes, we've got FaceTime. It's not the same. It's not the same. FaceTime in churches and Zoom call in churches is not the same as sitting in their living room for days, for hours, and just for them to have somebody to talk to. You'd be amazed at how many of your missionaries do not get to have a conversation in English with anybody outside of their immediate family. And just to be able to have a familiar face, somebody that believes like them, somebody that knows where they're from and where they're at, and to be able to eat with them and sit around and fellowship with them and let them drive you around their city and drive you around their area and show you the sights and all the things that they've gotten to be familiar with, and things that is now their home, to be able to show you that and share that with you, and to see the look on your face, and to show you the food and be able to experience all that and meet the people that they're working with. You cannot imagine what that does for a missionary. I'm about to get choked up here thinking about it, because many times a missionary on the foreign field feels like nobody knows what I'm doing. They don't know what I'm going through. The prayer letters do not do it justice. The pictures that they scan and paste into their prayer letters is a really horrible substitute for the real thing, to be there and meet these people that are in their church, their new converts, the people that you helped come to Christ through your missions giving. You are serving those missionaries. You are serving their children. The looks on the children's faces when somebody from the States comes to visit is priceless. And the missionary's wife, many times missionaries have people come in, and a lot of times it's just the men for some reason. Pastors bring several men from their church, and the missionary's wife, she's cooking and she's being hospitable, but there's no women for her to go sit down with and talk to. And they're so lonely. You get to serve the missionaries. You get to serve their families, their children. You get to serve the people in their church that are hearing most of this stuff for the first time. Every time that missionary gets up to preach, he's preaching something new, something that's different. And they struggle saying, is that right? Is that what we're supposed to be doing? Is this how we're supposed to be living? Is this really what God expects out of me? And then for a group to come in from the States and get up and preach, and that missionary translate or not translate, depending on the language situation, but to hear another voice echoing and reinforcing what that missionary has been saying, you cannot underestimate the power of that. Even the Bible says, let everything be established in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. And when another pastor comes in, laymen come in, and they want to teach the children in the Sunday school, give that missionary's wife a break, or give those workers a break. And they teach and they preach and they sit around and talk. These new converts are going, wow, Missionary's right. What he's saying is true. Don't underestimate the power of that. There were times I wanted to bring missionaries in, other missionaries and other pastors into our work there in South Africa, if for no other reason than to reinforce what I was preaching, knowing that there were people sitting there questioning, is he right? Is he right? And that's a big deal. Even the Apostle Paul, he commended the Thessalonians. He said, I commend you. He said, because when I came unto you, you received the word with all readiness of mind. And he went on to say this. He said, you received it not as it was the word of man, but as it is in truth the word of God. It's a big deal for a missionary to preach, and he's concerned about the receptiveness of the people. But when you have another pastor come in, or you've got other people come in and they say the same thing, they just say it a different way, man, you can underestimate how important that is. So you get to serve the missionaries. You get to serve their church and their converts and their Christians and strengthen their little nucleus. And you get to serve the lost on that mission field and sow seed, pass out tracts, and invite people to church. And it is awesome. Okay, this podcast has already been 30 minutes, and I'm just getting warmed up, but I'm going to pull the plug on this thing here. And I just want to challenge you. Take a missions trip. Go to your pastor, say, can we take a trip? Read your prayer letters. Figure out which one of your missionaries needs encouragement. Look at the logistics and say, we can do this. And listen, be there on a Sunday. Don't leave on a Monday and come back on a Saturday. Now, I'm doing that going to Nicaragua because my calendar was already full, and he wanted me to teach in the college. And so I'm going to preach every night nearly. They're going to hear me. Trust me. They're going to get enough of Stacey Shiflett. I don't need to be there on a Sunday, but I would love to be there on a Sunday because I would love to see what's going on Sunday. That's the biggest day of the week for a missionary. If you're going to take a missions trip, be there on the weekend. And just watch and observe and participate and help and do whatever. It will change your life. It'll change your church. Pastor, you will watch your missions offerings explode. You'll watch your faith promise explode. Come back and tell your people what God did with you and what God did in you. Set that example. Set that example. And just save some money, set some money aside. It's not that expensive. And it is worth every dime of it. All right. So enough about that. Be much in prayer for us over the next few weeks for a good, safe trip down to Nicaragua. And I'll fill you in on all that when I get back. I'm not sure when I'll get to do another podcast, but it will be at least 2 or 3 more weeks before I get to do one. And if you haven't already visited our website, go to surewordpublications.com. Got a bunch of great resources and books on there and just things to help you along the way. Go shop on there. All of my books, the 20 plus books that I've written, are on Amazon. If you're a member of Amazon Prime, I would encourage you to buy my books there because you will save a little bit of money on shipping if you're a member of Amazon. So go just type in my name, Stacey Shiflett Books, on Amazon. Look at all the different resources. I talk about them a little bit. I don't talk about them much, but I thought I'd mention it before I jumped off here. And until next time, may the Lord richly bless you.